themselves available to that position. So you're really working two sides, right?
Yeah.
A courtship kind of a thing.
It's almost like a sales role where the product that you're selling can say no.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Have free will.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I don't like them. Right. Yeah. Right. Because they could choose through the interview process to turn job, especially in today's marketplace.
Oh, yeah.
Right, where there's a lot more opportunity. For
there's
people.
tons of opportunity, and so like you've really got to have a strong game in order for you to attract those A players.
Right. And is it your experience, having done this now for several different firms, but really focused on this niche, that there is a certain type of person that is attracted to these early stage companies? Or can you take someone out of a large company and recruit them into an early stage company?
You can, and I think it's based on timing. Some people are ready for that move in their career. There's a lot of people that, they don't want to have to deal with that risk whatsoever.
Well, I went from a larger company, let's see, at the time, 40 million. So that one, wasn't the largest of the companies that I worked for, but it was a company that was ongoing, had a history, had a founder, had a stable, scalable business model.
Yeah.
To work for a friend to help him bring up a company from zero.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me how many things that were just sort of how I did business no longer applied.
Oh, yeah.
I remember one time in a meeting, I was sitting with him and one other resource, maybe two others, and I suggested that we have another meeting later in the week, and they were like, oh, no, we're too busy to have another meeting on this.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have the time. I mean, you're already working 24/7 most of the cases.
Right.
And I think when you're going from zero to that 100 million mark, I mean, that, it's just organized chaos.
Right. And especially in the technologies field, my sense is, tell me if I'm right or wrong, and I'm talking with Rick Girard, he is founder and CEO of Stride Search, that in the early stages of companies, those hires are so important, they have a pretty clear identified type of person that they want. Is that true? They come to you with a pretty clear idea who they need?
Actually, most of the time, they have maybe a concept of who they need. We have to work through it.
Okay, so that's part of your value.
Yeah, especially small startups.
Okay.
I mean, we will work through and identify companies that might have people that would be relevant.
Oh, wow.
Especially when somebody's looking to build a sales organization.
Right.
Maybe they want to sell into areas like storage. So then you have to identify storage companies and maybe players within that space that you can network through and get interested to come on board.
So there's a teachable moment right there, ladies and gentlemen. I was wrong. Thank you. So our loyal listeners know that whenever they hear the gong, if they were listening but not truly tuned in, to go back at least 30 seconds, I would say in this case maybe a minute, and pick up the answer to the question in the conversation that Rick Girard and I just had. Yeah, because you just really enlightened me on that point, because to go with the fact that these people are in something new and it's exciting, they may not be able to go and say, here's the 3 competitors that I want you to go source from.
Yeah.
We're creating something new, especially on the technology front, right? So it may be a hybrid of a person that they need.
Well, and a lot of times, too, why would somebody from a direct competitor want to go to their company? You've got to be able to pull people from maybe adjacent sectors that could have the transferable skills.
Right.
And then you have to educate the executives on the value of having that person.
Okay, so we're running this first segment a little bit long. Paul, my engineer, gave me the sign that we should cut it, but and so I'm going to. But when we come back, that's one of the areas that I'd kind of like to look at, because here's what I believe to be true, and you're going to tell me after the break if it's true. Many early stage companies need those new hires to be productive sooner than larger companies can give them time to get the legs under them. So hold on to that thought, ladies and gentlemen. The answer is just on the other side of this short break, where I'm just going to talk about one of the products or services. So listen to this question from me.
Richard Franzi is the author of 2 popular business books for CEOs. His first book, Critical Mass, The 10 Explosive Powers of CEO Peer Groups, was the first book ever written on the secret value of CEO peer groups. His second book, now with newly updated information, is Critical Mass, The Power of CEO Guiding Principles. Richard's books contain powerful information to help CEOs running middle-market companies gain valuable insight to improve their decision-making skills. Richard's books are available as paperbacks or Kindle versions from Amazon.com. To find them, type Richard Franzi in the search box.
And welcome back to this edition of Critical Mass Radio Show. I am your host, Richard Rick Franzi, and we have a great guest, Rick Girard, who is the founder and CEO of Stride Search. In the first block, we talked a bit about his background, and we also talked about kind of the uniqueness of the market and the niche that he serves, which are early-stage technology companies, and he's been in this space for quite some time. And right before the break, the cliffhanger was my thought question that possibly early-stage companies can't be as patient with new hires to make an impact on the bottom line and move the business. Is that accurate?
It's true.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, most companies are under pretty strict deadlines, especially if they've gotten funding. They have benchmarks they have to hit, and so especially in product development and in sales, they're pretty aggressive. So if they don't hit the ground running, that's problematic.
Yeah, and what, I've heard the word sales several times from you. It would make sense to me that an early-stage company would be front end of the business focus because the most important thing they have is client acquisition.
Yeah.
But on a technology front, I would think development and the technical people are another area where they have a need. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's always, that's usually the first piece of what we help to build, and then once they get product close to release, then we help with the sales side.
Okay. So they're calling you as they maybe don't even have a product ready for market yet.
Yeah, and that's always the challenge.
In what way?
It's a challenge because a lot of companies will build a product and not know how to sell it.
Oh my God, that's the classic, right?
I know, right?
Are you serious?
That
In this
happens,
day and age?
that still happens.
Wow.
They're going to build an app.
Yeah, right.
I got a great idea for an app. I'm going to
Okay.
sell it. I have no idea.
Wow.
But everybody will come.
So right. I mean,
Yeah.
frankly, I was in technology sales several decades ago, ladies and gentlemen. Although I'm not that old, I was a child prodigy. Nonetheless, that used to be our joke,
Doogie Howser.
Thank you. Build it. Yeah, exactly. Build it and they will come, right?
Yeah.
Engineering-focused companies think if we just build a better mousetrap, people will logically find us, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So how do you? So it sounds like for what they pay you, in addition to doing these searches and bringing qualified candidates, you really you become a concierge to them. I mean, you're sort of an advisor role a little bit if they allow you to and want you to be then too. Is that true?
Yeah, and that's where we excel. So we're able to work with the executives to help them define everything. We actually will set up the hiring process, the interview process. We'll we'll schedule it. We'll make sure interview one is covering these questions. We'll feed them the questions. We'll run the debrief process. We run everything through the closure of the offer.
What are companies finding they have? How many candidates do people have to look at in today's market to get the ideal?
Wow. So, there's two ways of doing it. If you do it on the way we do it, we operate at about 4-to-1 interview to placement ratio.
Okay.
When you look at contingency firms, which are like a lot of the firms out there, they just send a lot of people over and hopefully somebody fits.
Mm-hmm.
They operate usually at a 15-to-1, 15-to-2 interview to placement ratio.
Wow, that seems like a lot more work.
Yeah, it is a lot more work. And it's not as targeted.
Right.
So
that's what I'm thinking, too. You get kind of confused.
Yeah. But there's a lot of companies out there, they just want to see a lot of people. They want to interview a lot of people and see what they can get.
Also, companies might prefer to have a lot of candidates?
There are those companies out there. There's kind of a joke where A players hire A players, and so those searches tend to be a lot more difficult, right?
Right.
And then B players usually hire B and C players.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of companies out there that are B player companies, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they tend to need to use a lot more resources to find people to join. Most A players won't go work for a B player.
So that's interesting. That's true. Yeah, why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you risk your career in an early stage company with somebody you don't have total confidence in?
Exactly.
Well, there we go again. Yes, baby.
Where's that gong?
You're too gonger, man. That rarely happens here on Critical Mass Radio Show. He's special, ladies and gentlemen.
Sweet. Let's go for 3.
Okay, don't get greedy now.
All right, sorry.
Paul was generous with the second gong, and I'm going with it, baby, because that was valuable insight. I just have a few more minutes with you here on Critical Mass Radio Show. I'm wondering if you could benefit our audience of entrepreneurs and business owners. Where are you seeing them? This is off the script.
Sure.
But where are you seeing the energy and technology right now in the early stage companies?
Data. Data is kind of where a lot of data storage, data management, data analytics. I think that's where a lot of money's going into right now. A lot of focus, a lot of resources. You've got huge problem and security. You know, security is going to be a big problem in the next few years. It already is starting to be.
What do you mean by that? I'm sorry, I got a little bit of a tickle in my throat here, ladies and gentlemen.
No problem. Well, you have huge amounts of data that are now being used because of things like social media, Facebook, just storing videos. Companies who traditionally would just run like a database and they just store their data, their customer data, now have to store images and everything else. And so there's a lot of unstructured data that's out there, that's floating around, that needs to be managed.
Okay, so I've got this little bit of tickle here, Rick, and I apologize. Sometimes it happens, ladies and gentlemen. Live radio, what are you going to do? You got to keep talking. Talk through it, baby. Power through it. Rick Franzi. All right.
You can do it.
If you could, if somebody wants to find out more about Stride Search, where do they go online? How do they find you?
Yeah, so they can catch me at stridesearch.com, STRIDESEARCH.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Excuse me, I got one too.
It's contagious.
And I too also host a radio show here Tuesdays at
Woo-hoo-hoo,
noon.
baby. Tell me, when again?
Tuesdays at noon. It's called the Hire, HIRE Power Radio Show.
And why would somebody listen to Higher Power Radio Show?
You know, it's set up to provide entrepreneurs or small companies or just really any companies that are hiring, give them information about how they can solve some of their most critical hiring challenges.
And what have you found since you started to do the radio show?
As far as
what learnings?
Oh yeah, you know, it's great because I'm interviewing people who are experts other than myself in recruiting, and a lot of them are sharing new techniques with me, and I'm able to kind of enlighten them with some new things that I do, and you know, it's just more of a sharing platform.
I heard a rumor that you've interviewed SpaceX.
I had a guy on today who is one of the talent engineers for SpaceX.
What was that like?
It was great.
What a great company, huh?
Guy knew his stuff.
I'll bet. I would hope. Well, you're talking about A players hiring A players.
Exactly.
I think Elon Musk is an A plus.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Right. So
we should both make it a goal to get him on our show.
Yes.
Right?
Deal.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first on Critical Mass Radio Show. Elon, if you happen to be listening to the program today, either live or on a podcast, come on down to the studio. We'll give you a two for Tuesdays because we're both on Tuesdays.
Right.
He could be on your show, have lunch with us, and then I can pick him up on our show.
Let's do it.
It's a day. We'll make an afternoon of it.
All right.
Outstanding. I want to thank you for being on the program.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Be a friend of the program, part of the Critical Mass community. I really would strongly encourage people to take a look at Stride Search, especially if you're an early stage technology company or
just a company who's looking to grow and you're having growing pains, because part of our business is also doing consulting work with companies and helping them to streamline their process.
And I was going to say, or you want to get an entrepreneurial culture into your company, because I would think if you hire people that are comfortable working for early stage companies, I don't know that you can get them, but if you can bring them in, they're used to this go, push, move kind of culture, right? They might help your company reinvigorate itself.
Well, we'd hope so,
if you could attract the talent, right? Because
Yeah.
people usually go to early stage companies are going for a reason beyond, maybe some opportunity for upside in the company,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
The
most
opportunity to
definitely.
create something great and profit from it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Anyway, so I guess you have a wider swath of potential clients that might be listening to Critical Mass Radio Show than I initially thought, which is
Sure.
great. Good.
Sure.
I hope that happens for
I'm
you.
happy to help. We're customer obsessed, so if we can provide value, then that makes me happy.
Yeah, that makes me happy too. Thank
Yeah.
you for being on the show, Rick Girard. Appreciate it. And I'd also like to thank our engineer, Paul Roberts, Joan Park, Crystal Nunley, and Haley Stern, who are our engineers. I'm your host, Richard Franzi. If you'd like to learn more about this radio show podcast or the CEO peer groups that I lead, visit my website, Critical Mass for Business. You can also find me on social media platforms. If you're looking for me on Twitter, you want to check out CEO Peer Groups. CEO peer groups. A word, a phrase that I have a trademark on. On YouTube, we have our own channel. It's a little easier to find. It's under Richard Franzi. My Facebook page is Critical Mass for Business. So I'm giving you a couple different choices here. My LinkedIn profile is Richard Franzi, Franzi. And then my blog, I try to be an active blogger with information, is on our company's website, which I gave you just before. Again, Critical Mass for FOR business.com. And until our next show, I hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.